All right, y'all. I'm so excited for today's episode. Barbara and I, funny enough, like I went back and looked. It was like, I think 4 or 5 years ago. We connected so randomly on Instagram and then we never ended up really connecting. I think you asked me like where I lived, and I guess the circle we were running in or like the connection that we had, it was like Arizona. And I am not based in Arizona. I'm based in Arkansas. And so we
Yeah.
never really reconnected. But one of my clients recently brought up your name again. And she said that she attended one of your webinars and she's like, that chick is amazing. You need to have her on the podcast. And so I went back and saw that we had followed each other. It's just been a few years. And it's been such a cool thing to be able to look back over the last 4 years and see how much that you have done, girl.
Thank you. Yeah,
It's
it's been a wild ride.
pretty wild. Well, I'd love for you to kind of share like who you are and where you were 4 years ago or 5 years ago when this whole thing started, and we can kind of go all the ways.
Yeah, I am the CEO and founder of Your Tax Coach, and we help business owners and real estate investors save money in taxes. And so when we connected, it was probably when my business first started, and I was just trying to grow my network, reaching out to people. Um, and in those like 4 or 5 years, I really thought, well, to go back even further, I started my business to pay off the remaining amount of my student loans, which was like $22,000. And I'm like, if I could just have a side hustle that would pay off my student loans, like I would be so happy. I was still working at an accounting firm. And now it's just grown into this like huge movement. I have 30 employees in like 16 states. Um, and it's cool. We're hosting our own events, retreats, have courses, a real estate portfolio. Um, so it just goes to show like anyone can do anything.
I love that. And it really just started with the decision. Like this whole podcast is decide it's your turn. We focus mostly on mindset and strategy, but like I'd love to know the mindset behind this because right there you gave us like a 1 minute spiel of how you like have grown to 30 employees over 4 years. And it's so amazing and all of the things. But the truth of the matter is I'm sure it's not that simple as you made it seem. And I'm sure the last 4 to 5 years have been the absolute biggest wild ride ever. And for you to be able to go from, oh, I'm just going to do this little thing to see if I can pay off my $22,000 to student loans to now having 30 employees. I have so many clients that have that many employees. My husband has like 100 and something employees. So like
Wow.
having one employee is hard, let alone 30 and
Yeah.
above, and being able to scale to multi seven figures and real estate portfolios and all the things. So like when you started, I'd love to kind of take us back. So like when you started, you're like, okay, what was the first action step or the first decision that you made that you're like, okay, I just want to pay off this $22,000?
Weirdly enough, I started a newsletter list and I don't know why I did it, but I just recorded my own podcast on this topic and I was like, I started my newsletter list before I even had my business. And I don't know why. I think I just like was on other people's newsletter lists. So I was like, I think I need a newsletter list. I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but we'll just add people's names to it and every week I'll come out with a newsletter. And that's really kind of what started it, and showing up on social media every single day. I know a lot of people feel weird about being in front of like cameras or showing up every day. They don't know what to talk about or if people will want to listen. But what I learned was people are inherently nosy and they just want to know about you. And, they want to see your daily cup of coffee and what your favorite meals are that you're making that day. It has nothing to do with business, but people want to know people. And so, really, those two decisions of like create a newsletter list and start a social media. And then it was just like, I'm figuring it out as I go of like, oh, okay, I guess I need this software. And oh, I guess I need this assistant, as it kind of grew, it was a lot of like, oh, I guess I need this now. I don't know that it was a lot of like pre-thinking, which might not help a lot of people, but just do it messy.
Yeah, for sure. But did you com like that? All of that is like absolutely 100%. I mean, I think one of the reasons why I grew so fast is like I kind of did the same thing for myself. Like when I first started my business, I was like, okay, I'm going to post every single day for 30 days. Well, that 30 days turned out to be, I think I did it close to almost 4 years without missing one day on my stories. And
Yeah.
like it was just like this, I just knew that. I just wanted to keep showing up. And then it became like a challenge, like you never wanted to miss it, right? But like,
Mhm.
what was like the main thing that you wanted to do? Obviously, you were an accountant working for a firm, but like, what was like the problem you were trying to solve? Or like, obviously now your tax coach has turned into this big thing, but like, what was the value you were trying to add? What was like the problem you were trying to solve?
Well, what I knew from being in accounting for 10 years prior to that was I would be assigned all these clients and I would know nothing about them. We weren't even allowed to like speak to them. That's just like how accounting firms work. It's like unless you were like manager or above, you're like not communicating with clients. You just have to file the returns, give them the bad news of like you owe this much in taxes. And so after like a couple years, I was like, I don't know, this just feels icky and I feel like there's a better way to do it. Um, and why aren't we helping them save money? Like we're giving them this bad news, but why can't we ever give them good news and like meet with them all year long, not just like April 15th when their returns are done? And so I just kind of kept this running tab in the back of my head of like, these are the things I don't like in accounting. I also hated tracking my time. I thought it was a waste of time to track your time. I'm like, I'm spending an hour like writing every 6 minutes of like what I worked on for the day. And when you have to hit a certain amount of billable hours in tax season, I noticed like other associates of mine would just lie about their time. And that just costs the client, right? If you spent 30 minutes on something, but you put 2 hours because you're trying to hit your 55-hour goal for the week, you just cost the client an extra $1,000. So I was like, I don't want billable time. I want really good communication and I want to actually save people money in taxes. So when I started Your Tax Coach, it was like, okay, I'm just working with business owners and real estate investors because those are the people we can help save money the most and just have a really great communication, teach things in a really easy to understand way. And then if all I do is provide value and savings, I can charge whatever I want because I'm literally selling money at a discount, basically.
I love that. I watched one of your stories one time and you're like basically like okay, it'll cost you like I think you said it was like $3,500 for like a intensive session or something with you, but you're like,
Mhm.
"Listen, you're going to spend this $3,500 on taxes anyway, so you might as well just pay it to me and I'm going to be able to save you 5, 10, maybe, more so times whatever it's going to cost you in taxes if you just pay this one thing." And I think that that's probably one of the reasons why your business model is so fantastic. It's like you're going to pay it either way. So you might as well pay it to me and I could potentially give you like a huge upside.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So when you first started, like was there any like mindset blocks that came up? Like was there any like who am I to be doing this? You'd only been doing it like 10 years because I feel like most people when they have these great ideas and they want to start something and then all of a sudden all of those insecurities, all those fears, all those blocks start coming up.
Yeah, for sure. Mine, a lot of it was being as young as I was. I started when I was 30. And like which isn't that young, but like when you think of accountants, I feel like people imagine this like 63-year-old white male that has been doing it for 40 years? So like, yes, of course, the age thing, people were like, you say like a lot and a lot. And I'm like, well, those are my people. Like, if you're okay with me talking like this, it's also a way for me to like connect with you and speak in an easy to understand way. I'm not like speaking this crazy tax jargon. So just getting around, like, I'm not the typical accountant, right? Like I burned my suits when I quit public accounting. I legitimately lit them on fire. And so there were a lot of things, and then especially money mindset. Like when I first started Your Tax Coach, I was still working at that firm because my fear was that um, I wasn't going to make money. And so I have to have this steady paycheck before I can kind of cut the cord. And it took me until I was making 10 times my paycheck to quit. I don't know why it took me that long. Um, so for the people that just quit their job and then start their business, like kudos to you. I just couldn't do it. Maybe it was like the single mom PTSD in me, like always having to provide. Um, but yeah, so many mindset shifts have to happen as you grow.
Yeah. So I that's the thing about you that I actually think one of the reasons why most people are probably really drawn to you is like you just make like I think it's even like part of your slogan and your logo. You're like, we make tax saving like super simple and super fun. Like if you watch Barbara's social media, like when you're on your tax coach, the Instagram, or you go to your website, you guys really have like the most simple way that like on social media they always say like if like a 5-year old or pardon me a kid in grade 5 can't understand what you're doing, you need to change it because it needs to be a lot more simple. And that's really what you guys do. Like, I mean, I've been very blessed. I have a husband who's in real estate and I've learned about this kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things that I've learned from you in regards like I love your freebies on your website, like the ones about traveling and how you can save. Like you have amazing, like you guys go to her website right now, your tax coach. There is so much freebies on your website that are so helpful that could potentially save you thousands of dollars right now. But just the way that you explain it is just so simple. And I guess it's like weird because you would think that someone would have thought of this before you. Like, really, if you really think about it, like, why was no one doing this before?
Yeah, for sure. And even when I started, I didn't really find any other strategy firms doing it like we do. And now there are a lot more strategy firms in terms of like you can go to someone and get a plan, a tax plan to save you money. But like I go to all their master classes and I like buy all their things to see like how are these people explaining things, and I'm still just like, oh, I could make it so much easier for you. Um, but I think that's my superpower, and that's okay. They have really great marketing, and like they're really good at ads and like buying their leads and like that sort of thing. I've never done that. I don't know the next thing. I'm not good at SEO. Like you're not going to probably find me on Google, those types of things. But my superpower is just breaking things down really easily for people to understand.
It's obviously working. And the fact that I'm sure, like, does your business really thrive on referrals? I feel like that would probably be one of your biggest superpowers.
Yeah, referrals for sure. And I do go to a lot of events. So a lot of traveling and speaking at conferences so that I'm in front of new groups of people. I think like the algorithm on social media, you kind of like see all the same stuff. So you have to kind of like poke into other rooms a little bit.
Who is like if someone's listening to this podcast right now, who are your ideal clients? Like who are the people that you can probably help the most? Like if you could give us like a breakdown of like these are the top 5 people that have just thrived with working with us.
I love the business owners making 150 to $300,000 because, and a lot of people might hear that and think, oh, I would have thought a lot higher end clients. And we do have really high end clients, but my favorite clients are the 150 to 300 because I know that I can save you 30 to $50,000 in taxes in that range. And $30,000 to those people means so much more than $30,000 of tax savings to my millionaire clients. Like, yes, of course, they would love $30,000 more in their pocket, but like to the family, just like kind of scraping by, and they're working really hard in their business and they're finally taking off, they are finally seeing profits, they bought their dream house, dream cars, their expenses are really high probably and compared to what they make, and so I just love helping them because yeah, I've seen them take their families on dream vacations, start the retirement funds they weren't ever able to start. So the more meaningful money to me matters.
Heck yes. Oh my gosh, that's like 30% or pardon me 15 to 10 to 15% amount of money back in your pocket if you're only making 150,000 or 300,000. What are some simple things? Obviously, I want everyone to go follow you. And if you are a person who is making that 150 to 300,000, like my girlfriend took your free webinar and I'm sure she'll be working, well, a client of mine, I'm sure she'll be working with you sometime soon, your team, but she took so much away from that in conversations that we ended up having to based upon what she learned on that webinar. But what are a couple tangible things that people like they can get from this podcast? And then they can obviously go to yourtaxcoach.com. They can go follow you. You guys go follow her for sure. Your stories are fabulous. Like every single day, it's like you can take notes in your phone. So, what are some tangible takeaways that you would say to that person who's like, let's say hypothetically making $200,000?
Yeah, the most important thing is to know how you're structured. So a lot of times when people first start businesses, they just start a sole proprietorship, meaning they might not even have an entity, or maybe they're just an LLC. But as you grow, you really need to think about becoming an S corporation. And it's this cool hybrid between a C corp and just an LLC. But if you are that sole proper LLC person, you're paying the most amount of taxes out of anyone in the United States. And you might have thought, oh, but I have my LLC. Doesn't that help me in taxes? It doesn't save you $1 in taxes. It does protect you. That is what an LLC is, a limited liability company. So it's protecting you from liability, but you're paying an extra 15.3% in taxes. So if you're making 200 grand, you could be paying an extra 30K in tax. Like that's huge. And if your spouse is in business with you, you're doubling that. So you could be paying an extra 60K in taxes. And that's literally just an application. We apply for you to the IRS. They send us back an approval letter, and boom, like you just saved 30 to 60 grand. So know how you're structured is really, really important. A
I'm
lot
so
of
proud of
accountants.
myself. I'll step in. I'm an S Corp. Thank you, Lord. I'm smart. My team is smart. Perfect.
Yes.
Going.
Um, a lot of accountants will tell you like, oh, you're not ready to be an S corp or you need to make more money or whatever. That is not true. Like even at 100K in taxes, you're saving 15 grand. 50K in profits, you're saving $7,500. And when you're
Why would
making
someone tell you
50K,
not to do it? Like, why would an accountant tell you not to do it? It's like, let's say you're making $100,000 a year. Why would your accountant say stay as an LLC that, rather than an S Corp?
I think a lot of them are lazy. I think a lot of them don't know how to do S corp tax returns. They are the most complicated, I'll say, out of any tax returns to prepare. Like C corps are easier than S corps. Um, I think they're not educated enough in really what they are, what the benefits are, and or they don't know how to apply for it for the IRS, or they don't think the client will pay for it. And that's just like a big money mindset shift that they'll have to make. But for example, like for our clients, we charge 5K to switch someone to an S Corp. It's not just as easy as an application. Like we also, there's a lot of compliance with it. So we'll do a reasonable compensation report and get them on payroll and, make sure they know what basis is and what their distributions are and all that kind of stuff. But anyone's willing to pay 5K to save 30. Like that's just math.
The math
Um,
maths. I love it.
Math of maths for sure. So, yeah, I don't know. Accountants bother me, but I guess that's why, we are where we are.
That's why you solve the problem. So the first thing
Yeah.
is, if you're making between that 100 to $300,000 and you're not an S Corp, look into that. Barbara's team can
Yep.
definitely help you with that. I'm assuming people can just call and get on a call with you.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Easy.
Easy peasy. So what is the next thing that you think most people need to look at?
They need to start looking at their expenses. So a lot of times new business owners have this fear of like, oh, I don't think I can take that many expenses, or isn't the IRS going to audit me if I take these expenses? And it's just not true. If they're legitimate expenses, you are allowed to take them on your tax return, and don't be afraid of losses. Like you can have losses for years. And yes, there is, an IRS rule called the hobby loss rules that if you show a loss in too many years, they could come in and question it and say, well, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. But this is my 15th tax season. I've never seen an audit for it. And for like other accounts I know that have gone through audits like that, as long as you can say you've been trying to produce a profit, there's no other questions. So like take the legitimate expenses that you have. So home office deductions are huge, and I think a lot of people don't max out those. Most accounts will do the simplified method, which maxes out your deductions at 1,500. But when you take the actual calculation, which we'll calculate for you, our clients get $5,000 to $10,000 in deduction. So it's a big difference. Maxing out your vehicle deductions. And I think a lot of, especially like online business owners, they're like, oh, well, I don't drive my car that much for business, but you could be driving to the post office to send out client gifts, or you're going to Costco or Staples or Lowe's for supplies. You are driving to the airport to go to a conference. So you are driving your vehicle for business. So take those expenses and especially depreciation, which I know you are very familiar with. So yeah, just really writing off your life, right? That's my trademarked slogan. So really taking things you're already spending money on in your life and turning them into a business deduction.
I love it. So your main course when you first start, I'm assuming when you first started, you created the course first. Is that like that's your bread and butter, right? Like the write off your life course?
No, I actually,
Oh,
um, was focused on the accounting firm first. So I think the course launched just 2 years ago. So
okay.
we only had services, done for you services for 3 years. So just like tax prep, strategy, bookkeeping. And then I realized, well, really why I wrote the course was because we were working with strategy clients, creating this amazing tax plan for them. We could save them so much money. But what I couldn't do for them was be at the checkout counter with them when they're deciding, do I charge this on my personal card or my business card? And so, although I could give them all the complex strategies I could, I knew that they had business expenses on their personal card that they just didn't know to turn them into business expenses. And so I really wrote the course for my strategy clients. And then what I didn't think about was, oh, this is a great way for other people to get into our ecosystem that maybe can't afford our more luxury service like strategy, or maybe they're a newer business owner, they're not quite ready for strategy yet, but it's something that can still save them, $5, $10,000 in taxes. And it was cool to see like basically everyone that's taken the course is now one of our clients.
So the
So
perfect funnel. If you're thinking about business, guys, what she just said right there is like the perfect funnel into once a
yeah.
person pays you $1, you have a much better chance of getting them to pay you again. And then also too, it's so much easier to keep a client than it is to acquire a client. So it's just like a fabulous way. Plus, you're helping so many people.
Yeah. And like what I said at the beginning when I started, like all these things that I didn't really know why, like I didn't know what a funnel was, right? Like a couple of years ago. And now I'm like, yes, it's a great funnel. But also if you are creating those funnels or courses, make them so valuable, someone can't say no to keep working with you because I give everything away. Like even
I
my
love that.
freebies, people save so much money, but our course, like people save tens of thousands of dollars. And I will buy other people's courses and be like, that I didn't learn anything, and I know that they're gatekeeping. And why would I pay them more to maybe learn something else when I didn't even learn something from this lower ticket item? So, like, don't be afraid to give it all away
I
because no
love that.
matter how much value you give, someone's going to pay you for the accountability and someone's going to pay you to do it for them. So, like, give it all. Yeah.
I 100%, I could not agree with you more. Like I've gone back and forth. Like before, very personalized coaching. I only do one-on-one coaching. It's a bad business model, but I just love it so much. I've always stayed pretty much fully booked. But like I will give as much free value in the DMs, in my text message community as humanly possible for however long it takes, because my whole theory is like if I'm willing to do this for when you're not paying me $1,
Mhm.
to me, my mindset would be like, oh, imagine what it's going to be like when you're actually paying for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So if someone is looking for that course, what does that course run so people can head to your website right now to buy it?
Yeah, it's 2222. So $2,222.
Perfect.
And it's a self-paced course. You have lifetime access. As you know, tax laws change every year. So we update it every year. We add new bonuses every year. And then you probably get like 30 hours of different master classes I've done on every topic you could think of, in addition to like the 200 different deductions you're going to learn about in the course. But it's broken out so easy. Like if you're like, I just want to learn how to install a pool at my house and make it a deduction, you can just click on pool and like learn about that. So super easy, really great interface.
That's awesome. You guys be sure to check that out. Something that you said that I think is really important too, and that I work a lot with the mindset when it comes to business. And over the years, it's just fact that a lot of women try to bury their heads a bit when it comes to money, talking about money, holding money, spending money, investing money. Money is just a hot topic for a lot of people, not just women, but especially, or not. Not just women, but especially women, they have a hard time with it. And I think even us having these conversations, perhaps a few people have even just turned it off because they're afraid of it. They don't want to talk about it. Their husband deals with it. Perhaps they're like, oh, that's not for me. I don't have a business or whatever it is. But what would you say to that woman who kind of buries her head in the sand when it comes to money?
That you owe it to your family and yourself to know these things. If you've ever listened to one of my keynote speeches, I grew up in a really tumultuous family. My parents are both drug addicts, and my mom never knew anything about money. My parents met when they were 18 years old. She's never balanced a checkbook. She's always worked minimum wage jobs. And I saw her growing up back when direct deposit was not a thing. You go to she worked at Taco Bell, so she'd go to Taco Bell every Friday to get her paycheck, and she would sign on the back of it to my dad, and he would give her $20 for the week. And she would always tell me when like a really shitty situation happened, um, she would say, when I can just save a little bit more, we'll be able to leave, right? And so there are so many women probably even listening that are in really bad situations that you can get out of, but you need to learn things about money. And maybe it's not a domestic violence, maybe it's not drugs, but um, it can change the trajectory of your children's lives, your family's life, your life, and you owe it to yourself. Like, feel empowered, knowledge is power, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. Um, do you think that that's the catalyst for you for being as successful as you are?
Yeah. Yeah, people always ask like, why are you always striving to like have a bigger business and more clients and all of that? And I'm like, well, because people come up to me at events that have told me they've left their shitty relationship or an abusive relationship, or they were able to have a savings account finally. So, you know, just those little moments of I know that I have to impact more people. And if what I can teach you can help you save $100 or $100,000, like my work here is done.
I love it. What is your goal for your tax coach? Like if we were to kind of fast forward a few, like, did you dream of this today? Were you so clear on this is what it was going to look like? And then also too, what does the future look like?
No, I wasn't. We even have this video from our first team Christmas party, and we all went around like, what's the next year going to look like? And I think at the time we had like 4 employees, and I was like, we'll have 7 employees. And my COO was like, we'll have 20 employees. And I'm like, you are crazy. But she was right. And I really just want more business owners to be impacted. And so we have to just keep spreading the word on how people can save money. We did split out the businesses this year in terms of like all of our education courses, speaking, retreats, live events in one business, and then the accounting firm in another. So I think that was important. I really, really, really want to grow the education side, like courses, um, just because they're an easier price point for people.
Yeah, for sure. Um, what do you love most about this? Do you love just the education? Do you love speaking? Do you love the growing the team? Do you love the business side of it? And then what do you do to invest in yourself? Because the fact that you've been able to grow this huge team of 30 people, which is I'm assuming continuously growing, you've got to be doing some things for yourself because that's a mind fuck in itself.
Yeah, I do a lot of self-care and a lot of mindset work. I've had a lot of trauma in my life that I have to keep always working through. And so if you looked at my calendar, probably half the week is a lot of self-care because I do have a really great team. But like, for example, just yesterday, I did a spinal energetics session, which is crazy. Probably most people are like, what is that? Um, and I can't even explain it. You could look up spinal energetics. It looks like you're getting an exorcism, although that's not what it is. Um, and I've done ayahuasca and like the big healing things, but on a daily basis, like I have to get a walk in. So a lot of times on my stories is when I'm on my gratitude walk. So every
Girl,
morning,
oh my gosh, we barely know each other. I do it every single solitary day. I've never like I think I've missed 20 days in since 2020, twenty
oh,
nineteen. Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I love that. I'm so like that's so cool because I think first and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm just like I am
No.
so I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think in the work that I do, like if I didn't do that, I literally would be a bad person, but I also think too like it's for me, it's my church. It's
Hmm.
everything.
Yeah, just like being outside, rain or shine, like you just feel better when you're outside. And like I have to check my email anyway. So like I just check my email on my walks. Um, After I've had like 30 minutes of alone, like no
Yes,
phone time.
quiet.
So gratitude walks, I'm really into hot yoga and Pilates. And then just like different healing modalities. Right now, I'm really loving spinal energetics, breath work, sound healing, so many things. I could do a whole podcast on like
You totally
seat
should. I bet your audience would
self-care.
love that. I think that the people would love that because I think there's so much more. Some days I did a post that did really well, like probably like a year ago or whatever. And I said, some days business is the easiest part. Like
Mhm.
some days business is just the easiest part. The personal stuff, the life stuff, the friend stuff, the self stuff. That some days that's way harder than growing a business or running a business.
Yeah, I agree.
Very, very cool. Well, where can everyone find you and how do people work with you? Like, what is the best way to get in connection with you? If people want to like deep dive into your talks, where do we do all of the things?
I hang out the most on Instagram, so follow your tax coach. I drop daily tips and tricks on how to save in taxes. It's me in the DMs, so if you just have a question, feel free to DM me. I love chatting with people. And if you want to schedule a call, yourtaxcoach.com.
Amazing. You guys, please, if you are anywhere near that, go follow her. If you're not even at that around $100,000 uh, threshold, just go consume her stuff because the faster you consume it, the closer you will be to that. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.